Drain plug hot. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is the day we're going to do the oil change. You see I got 56,759 miles on my truck. I asked you guys in a community post a while back, when should I do it? 5,000 miles like I normally do. 8,000 miles to see how long I can go on this Amsoil. 10,000 miles is what Ford recommends, or 12,000 miles what Amsoil recommends. And you guys wanted me to go 8,000 miles. So if you look up here, I was actually due on 11/9 and I have at 54,000. So 3 weeks, and let's go back on here and look. I've gone 7,258 miles. Let's see what the oil life percentage is. Truck info, oil life reset. It is at 27%. So we are going to drain the oil out of this and we are going to send it off to Speed Diagnostics for some oil testing. And as you can see, my temperature is up. We're going to send it to Speed Diagnostics for the used oil analysis. And I have a trend analysis going. I've already done 2 with them. One was at 4,000, one was at 5,000. This one will be at 7,250 something, whatever that was that said on there. 7,258.9. I cannot go the whole 8,000 because I am going on a road trip and I want to go ahead and do this now and get it sent off to the lab. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air. Let's start draining the oil and get our little container filled. And here is my drain plug. Hi. This is the passenger side of the vehicle. I'm actually standing in front of it. Let's go ahead. 15 mil. Crack this baby loose. Oh, emergency. Emergency, emergency. I'm gonna get my can ready. Speed Diagnostics. So we're gonna pull the plug and let it run for about 3 seconds. We're gonna fill it to that line. This is the fun part. I'm gonna let it run for 3 seconds and then I'm gonna fill this little container here. One, 2, 3. Drain plug hot. I can dump some of that out. Jeez. I don't know if you can see that, but right on the line. We'll let that finish draining and then we'll put the drain plug in it. And the oil filter is way over there on that side. So this bottle has a sample number on it that I'll have to put in when I get on the website. Lid. I'll drop it in the bag. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It has a sample number on it. So I can get my trend analysis. Oh, there's the sample number. So I can get my trend analysis going. I drop this in the bag. Make sure it's screwed on. drop it in the bag, seal that bad boy up. It's in the bag. I'll put it in the prepaid box that it comes with, and I'll go online. There's a little QR code you can scan. Scan the QR code, and it'll take you right to the site. You fill out all the information, and then I'm gonna put that sample number in there and send it off to the lab. And that's gonna tell me if the oil is still good, if it still has plenty of additive package left, if the inside of my engine is doing very good. It'll tell me the wear rate of the engine. It'll tell me how much calcium, how much molybdenum, basically all the add packs. It'll tell me if I got any bearing wear. It'll tell me if I have any antifreeze or anything from head gasket leaks. It'll tell you exactly what is going on inside of your engine. So, without further ado, with the power of video editing, let's go take a look at the lab result.
Okay, you guys saw me drain the oil and put it in the speed diagnostics tube. I sent the oil off in the prepaid package. It went to Lake Speed, and the oil analysis has come back, and I have Mr. Lake Speed here with me, and he's going to go over that report. Mr. Speed?
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is fun. So what's great is this is the third sample. So we have a little bit of a trend analysis, because that's actually the most important thing, is to look at the trend, not just the individual numbers by themselves, because, every engine's different. So it's, our one engine, it may be normal for it to produce, say, 75 parts per million iron. That may not be bad for an engine. Well, that could be horrifically failure bad for another engine. So by looking at the trend is really what's going to tell you the most about your engine. So that's one nice thing you have with your situation here, is you have several samples, from basically right around 5,000 miles up to around 7,300 miles, the same brand of oil repeating over and over again. And it's interesting to see what's going on here. We look at very first is viscosity. It's the most important characteristic of any lubricant. So that's why it's the number one thing on the report. And what you can see is, the very first sample was now 8.3 down to 7.9, back to 8.4. So they're in yellow because they've sheared slightly. And that's pretty typical, that the polymers in the oils do shear initially. And then as the oil oxidizes and ages over time, the oil will begin to thicken back up. So this isn't uncommon to see. I think especially with the fact that this oil is, designed to go 2,500 miles, or 25,000 miles, right? Before an oil change, they're counting on that thickening to bring it back into range at the end. So when you're taking a sample early, it's not surprising to see it down in the 20 grade range, be below grade just slightly. And that half a centistoke variance, that's nothing to worry about. That's essentially the same, what you're seeing there. Oxidation value, this is what's interesting, because you had a little bit of insight on this, that on the previous two samples, you see the oxidation rate was up to 15. And on this one, it's 8.6. It's significantly less. So why don't you tell everybody what was different about this sample compared to the other two?
This sample, I actually used auto start stop. The last sample I didn't.
Isn't that crazy to see?
That's crazy.
And it really made a difference, because the higher the oxidation goes, the shorter your oil life is going to be. But here's the thing. What makes the oil life shorter is what's called the oil to fuel ratio. Essentially, for a given volume of oil, you can determine the life of that oil by the amount of fuel that goes through the oil. Well, when you do the auto start stop, it's turning the engine off. Mm-hmm. It's literally putting less fuel through the engine, and you can see those results right here. That's pretty crazy, man. When you shared that with me the other day, I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting to look at these results and then know that little bit of background detail.
And I left that out on purpose, just to see, because I do have an auto start stop video and everybody's like, oh, that tears up your engine. It does this, it does that. Well, you know as well as I do, when you drain oil, there's still a little bit of oil left in the engine, up in the top. Okay. Everybody thinks that it automatically drains down to the bottom of the pan. Yes, starting an engine does wear out the engine on a cold start, right?
Right.
First start in the morning. Okay. Yeah. It's not sitting there long enough for it to actually cause any harm or wear like yes, it does wear out. Don't get me wrong, but it's not running it dry and wearing it out like people think it is. And that's why I left that out specifically, so I can compare the two. And then I texted you and told you, hey, this one I ran auto start stop. The other one I didn't. The other one I'm just sitting there idling, dumping fuel. So that's why I did that. That was just kind of a surprise for you and for me, because I wanted to see the difference. So that was just kind of my not a screw you, but like, hey, it's not tearing up the engine like you think it is, people. Like these engines nowadays.
It shows that there's a balance, right? It's a double-edged sword, like you said. When the engine has to start up, then that is the highest amount of wear. But in this case, when it's auto start stop, it's such short amount of time in between that it's not actually increasing the wear a lot, but you're paying a higher price for the fuel dilution, which is something that I believe in. I mean, my experience doing oil analysis is that fuel, unburnt fuel, is the number one enemy of your engine. It does more damage than anything else I've seen in 20 years of doing oil analysis and oil work on engines. High fuel dilution always equals higher engine wear, and what we see here is that auto start stop, whatever it's contributing to, maybe we'll call it a fractional amount of increased wear during that startup cycle, you're more than getting extra benefit by reducing the amount of fuel that's running through the engine. So the oil is being preserved. Now, a lot of people may not know this, and this is probably a great time to get into this, because the additive package is going to come next. So that oxidation value we talked about, and how it's been cut in half here by reducing the amount of fuel that goes through it. One of the reasons why this is significant is because your ZDP, the zinc dialkyldiphosphate, that we all know is an anti-wear additive that's so critical in oil, it's also an antioxidant. So what can happen is, if you have higher free radicals, which the components of fuel tend to be less thermally stable, so they can combust, than oil, they will increase the oxidation rate. That's why you're seeing a higher oxidation rate, because there was more fuel through the oil. Okay. That's also consuming the antioxidant property of the anti-wear additive, which means it can't be functioning as an anti-wear additive. You're lowering the reserve. It's not depleted to zero, but you're lowering the reserve by doing that. So this is really key, because when you get down and you look at the additive package, well, the additive package is basically the same across all of these, right? It's a current API SP package, with the lower calcium, with the bumped up magnesium. The zinc phosphorus levels are right there in line with what is required. They're above the minimums. You got a little bit of moly, you got a little bit of moron. They're pretty much, it's the same oil. Everything's the same. All those variations are the normal variations you have in the blend method and in the test method. There's enough balance in there that there's nothing spectacular there. When you look down at the wear metals,
bring it up so we can see it.
All right. I forgot. I'm not sharing my screen. My bad. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Here we go. We'll hit present, and we're going to do share screen. Share screen. Okay. There we go. All right.
Let me add it. There we go.
Yeah. So here's the three samples. Here's the mileage. As we talked about, there's the viscosity. They're all right in line. Here's that big change, right? Those previous ones without the auto start stop, your oxidation rate is almost double where you are here using the auto start stop. And there is a little bit of difference. There's a little more fuel dilution here than here. So, and that's the longest drain interval too.
Mm-hmm.
So more miles, less fuel. That everything we just talked about, these numbers, paint that picture really clear. When you look at the additive package down here, again, it's the same oil, all three samples. Any of these variations are just, like I said, the normal variances that you see just in the blending process and in the actual analysis process. There's balance and variation and everything. So that's just normal. We get down here to the bottom, we look at the actual results. Of course, iron, that's cylinder bore, valve train, timing chains, all those kind of things. What's interesting here is with the auto start stop off and the lower oxidation value, you have the highest number of miles. So we're at 7 parts per million iron compared to 10 over here at 5,700 miles. Now, again, when you get to these small numbers and we're literally single digits, you don't sweat that. There's not that much difference here, right? So as a good rule of thumb, if you see something that's 5 parts per million or less, that just means there's something there. It doesn't mean it's always going to be 1 or 2 or 4. Just know that if it's 5 parts per million or less on the report, it just means there's something there. Mm-hmm. Don't be hardcore about what that number is. Don't worry about a 2 versus a 4. It's not double. It just means there's something there.
So what about the 7 versus, what is that, a 20 over there or 16?
So yeah, a 7 versus a 10. Okay. 10. So now you're into a range where, okay, there's more than just something there, but is there a significant difference between 7 and 10? It is less. And you look at that first sample, the wear rate, you were at 4 parts per million per 1,000 miles total overall. Then you're at 2 parts per million, the last 2 samples overall. Well, those are, they're right there. So back to that trend analysis we talked about in the very beginning, what you're saying is, okay, 4 to 2, there is a drop. And you can see that things have gone down and the results are better, these last 2 samples, than that first sample. It means everything's good, right? The best news out of this whole thing is that the fuel dilution is lower, oxidation is lower, which means you could extend this drain interval further without compromising the wear rate, is what I see from this. That would be my take on looking at this, is that I would say, yeah, go 10,000 miles on the next one and see what it does, because oxidation isn't linear. It's a hockey stick. So you don't know where you're going to hit that point where it takes off. You're not at that point at 7,500. And with the auto start stop on, it looks like you should be able to push that further. So that would be my recommendation, is to go a little bit further.
So that was the whole reason behind this, was to see, I had put a community post out, hey, I usually go 5,000 miles, but my trend analysis that I got going on so far says my oil is still good. Do you guys want me to do 8,000? Do you want me to do 10,000 that Ford recommends, or 12,000? This is what this Amsoil recommends, because now they have the new 25,000, which is what's in it now. So this is the last batch of the 12,000 mile oil. So everybody said 8,000. I was getting ready to go on a road trip. That's why it's only 72.58. That's as close as I could get it without going over.
Sure, right, yeah.
So I changed the oil, sent it off to you, went on my trip. Now I'm back home. I've already put through 2,900 miles on it in about a week and a half.
Oh, nice.
So that was a pretty good trip. I think I will push this one to 10 just to see what this trend is going to do. And I haven't changed anything. Same oil, same filter. I haven't done anything different. I'm still driving it the exact same way that I did with this last oil analysis. So that's going to be interesting to see.
No, this is really fun, man. Thank you for letting me be involved. This is so super cool to have a good controlled test like this where you're knowledgeable about all the variables, you understand everything so that you're not letting things get into it that could collude it, and be able to see what it can go. This is interesting stuff, you know. This is like real science. I love it.
Yeah. Now, am I saying for everybody else to go 10,000 miles? Absolutely not.
No.
You need to get an oil analysis done.
Yep.
So you can see. I think a couple of subscribers did order oil analysis from you.
That's awesome. Well, the thing is, we've seen, like, first, again, depending upon how you drive and what oil you have, right? Where this oil is showing for the way you drive, yeah, you should be able to go, you know, over 7,500 miles. You should, I would say, based on this, I would say you could go at least 10,000 miles, maybe more with this oil, the way you drive. I've seen other oils die in less than 1,600 miles.
Wow.
Because of the way the customer drives. So that particular oil, the way the customer drives, was the exact weak spot for that oil, and it's dead in 1,600 miles. So that's why I never say there's a fixed number of miles that you can go. It's all about, well, it's what oil are you using and how are you driving? That's what's really what it boils down to.
So below is the website where you guys can go order an oil analysis kit. It's really easy to do. Comes in a prepaid box. Everything's all bagged up nice. Go ahead and take your sample, put it in the bag, put it in the prepaid envelope, fill out the online form on the website, and drop that puppy in the mailbox. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything goes way smoother if you do the online form before you drop it in the mail.
Yeah,
that way, when it goes the other direction, it wrecks the whole program.
That's why I backed up. I said fill out the online forms, then drop it in the mailbox.
Yeah.
But it's a really quick process, and those are the results. Well, your results may not look like mine, but
yeah, your results may vary.
May vary, but you'll get the same cool printout.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is his YouTube, the Motor Oil Geek. You guys need to check that out. He's got some really cool videos on there. Very, very smart.
Thanks. So we're working on this engine back here. We're here at EFI University out here in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Got the Engine Performance Expo LS back there. We're going to be doing some testing this week on it, testing some different oils. It has in-cylinder combustion analysis. So we can actually see how much power the engine's making in the cylinders and compare that to how much power is at the crankshaft. You know, basically your indicated mean effective pressure versus your brake mean effective pressure. And then we can, that's the friction. So we can actually use that to measure friction. And then we can take oil samples and we'll analyze how much wear is being created in the engine based on those different oils. So should be some pretty cool stuff.
Can't wait. You are filming that video, right?
We are doing that. We're going to do that this week. Yes.
Okay, cool. Because I cannot wait to see that video.
Yeah.
There is a question that I do have for you off subject.
Okay.
Well, it's about oil. I never knew this going through manufacturer training. I never asked. How do they know what weight oil to put in the
So the engineers work out oil flow. So all viscosity is a fancy word for resistance to flow. So the bearing clearances, the size of the pump, the displacement of the pump, they work out what viscosity they want based on the flow in the entire system. Of course, the big trend over the last 20 years essentially is going lower and lower and lower in viscosity. And the main reason for that is fuel economy. In the most recent video I did on the Motor Oil Geek channel with my daughter's new 2023 Toyota Corolla came with 0 W8. That car was built in Japan. So in Japan, they have, kind of fuel economy requirements. So in the US, they're already more comfortable with even lower viscosity grades over there under the JASO spec. API here in America just allowed in the 012 and the 0 W8. That car was built in Japan, got shipped here, so it came with the 0 W8. The reason for that super low viscosity is for fuel economy. So when they have an engine where they could have, tighten the bearing clearances up, slow down the flow in the engine, they can go that low viscosity oil, and then that will give them more fuel economy, especially during cold start and what they call the city driving cycle. Because there's not a lot of difference in the protection of the engine oil actually when you're doing, we'll call it just steady state highway driving. There's not a lot of difference there. Not a lot of fuel economy difference, not a lot of wear difference really. It's that cold start, short trip driving. That's where all the 0W grades have become super popular because it just gives the fuel economy boost is just massive. And all the OEMs need that because the CAFE requirements for fuel economy have gone so high and continue to go high. That's why you're seeing lower and lower viscosity grade oils. The good part about that is it makes the additive companies, Lubrizols, Aftons, Ornite, Infiniums of the world, they have to work harder to develop more robust additive packages in order to protect the engines, because every subsequent API category, the wear protection requirements keep getting higher and higher. So they're just having to utilize more advanced additive technologies to keep the protection up, even despite the low viscosity grades. Now, of course, the exception to that is going to be stuff like towing and things like that. Real high temperature operations, that's where it's really hard. But I mean, probably 6-7 years ago, in this same dyno cell, right on that same dyno, we had a LT1 engine from GM, one of the direct injection engines, and it was designed to run on 5W30. And for a project we were doing for GM in Oak Ridge, we ran a 0W12. Now, it was a double trick throwdown, no expenses spared, not your Walmart budget brand 012, but it provided better protection. We had less wear in that engine at 320 degree oil temperature. Not low, at high temperature, we had better wear protection with the 012 than the 530. And that engine, if we tried that in this engine, which is a race engine with aluminum rods, it'd blow the thing apart.
Yeah.
So again, back to your results may vary. That's one of the things. Sometimes for certain engines, certain applications, the thicker oil is better. For other engines, the lighter oil might be better. Without the oil analysis, you just don't know. You're speculating. And that's what I hate. I hate, oh, this is the number of miles to run. You don't know that. You're just guessing that. Oh, thin oil is bad. You don't know that. You're just guessing that. Or thick oil is good. You don't know that. You're just guessing that.
Dirty oil is bad.
Data, then we can talk.
That is a misconception too. I do believe that just because it's dirty, it's bad.
Right. But it's you just got to see. Get some data and let the numbers play out. Just because an oil turns dark doesn't mean that it's bad. Because there are certain chemistries in the oil that do turn dark. Mm-hmm. Like, I know, for example, we've seen some stuff recently, and I've used some of that same chemistry in other oils I've formulated before. It will turn red. So it makes the oil look really weird. And people think that it's bad. Well, it's just one of the chemistries is doing its job, right? As it's being heat activated, that's a change, but it doesn't mean that the oil isn't doing its job.
That's the same thing with diesel oils. I mean, you're still going to have some oil left in the engine after you do an oil change, but it's still going to be dirty. You can go 10 miles up the road and it's just going to be dirty. Well,
the perfect example of that is there's always going to be soot, like I said, soot left over. Mm-hmm. Diesel oils are designed with dispersant chemistries that are designed to keep the soot in suspension so the soot doesn't agglomerate and turn into these big carbon balls that will wear your engine out. So the reason it turns black right off the go is because it's basically absorbing all of the soot. Mm-hmm. It's suspending it. It's doing its job. Now, if you could do something like, say, put a gapless, second ring in a diesel where there's no soot getting in the oil, well, then it's different. The oil should be clean. But if you don't have like a gapless ring, in your diesel to prevent the soot, and you put in an oil and it doesn't turn black, there's a problem. Because the soot's still there. If it's not in your oil, then it's going to be somewhere else, and it's not going to be doing good things to your engine.
It's going to be somewhere where it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you stopping on here and going over my report with me. And I'm going to push it to 9 or 10,000, maybe 9,500. That's a good in between.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Sounds good, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.